So welcome to another day on this beautiful quest toward becoming more conscious. I know this is an arduous journey. You're hanging in there. Let's keep going, because the lessons that we're going to learn are only going to help you not only evolve, but also help you have less stress, less anxiety with your children. So in the previous lessons, we just learned about the important truth about our children's inner emotional needs. We underscored the primary questions that every child wants answered. We began to see that every child desires more than anything to have these three primary questions answered. Am I seen? Am I worthy? Do I matter? When children feel seen and feel worthy and as if they matter, it truly forms a foundation for their sense of worth and significance in the world. Day in and day out, in all sorts of different ways, our children are always inviting us to answer these three questions, to recognize them for who it is they are in their essence. They're always in some way or the other saying, please, mom, dad, look at me, see me. Please accept me as a worthy being. You know, our children are always yearning for us to understand them on the deepest level possible, to understand their essence, their uniqueness, their identity, who they are before they even begin to do anything at all, who they are in their being state without the doing. You know, it's really important that we as parents who are becoming conscious understand the unique inner needs of our children. I'm emphasizing this over and over again because it's so pivotal that we fully absorb this awareness within us, that our children desire to be seen for their inner need, not their surface, their essence, not their behaviors. And it is only when we truly connect with their essence that we can become willing to allow our children to march to the beat of their own drum and to sing to the tune of their own voice. Unless we are willing to honor that they are unequivocally different from us, only then will we release our control over them. And when we release our control, we actually then see them for their worth. Let me give you an example from my own life. You know, I had always fantasized that my daughter would be a supreme meditator. She would be as good, if not better than me in meditating. In fact, I wanted her to grow up to be a teacher of meditation. So, of course, at a young age, I began to teach her how to meditate. And I justified this control over her life as a good kind of control. I decided there was such a thing as a good agenda to have. Because after all, how could wanting my child to meditate be about my ego? Like, I couldn't see how it could be about my ego. Surely this was about her well-being, wasn't it? So early in her life, I began to train her how to meditate. And in the beginning, she took to it like a fish to water. She was excited by it, and she looked forward to our time doing it together. Now, you know how we parents get. Our children show a little bit of excitement, and that's it. We buy them the harp and the piano, and we take them to the mountains of Tibet, and we enroll them in 10-year courses. We can't simply allow them to just enjoy an activity. If they say they enjoy an activity, any activity, we don't let them just have joy. No, then we want them to master that activity. So it was the same, I'm embarrassed to say, with me and my daughter. She enjoyed it at first, and she thought it was cool and exciting to be a meditation teacher. But instead of letting her just simply relax into the activity and experience the joy of it and take her own lead, nope. What did I do? Like every overzealous parent, I began to force her. I began to push her. I began to time her. I began to videotape her. I began to document her. And I literally sucked all the fun out of it. It was no longer fun. It became a duty, a chore, and an obligation. So what could have been a natural affinity, a natural choice from my daughter, I robbed her of that autonomous freedom, and I began dictating how she should be in her joy. I began instructing her how she needed to relate to the practice of meditation. I still remember, I'm so embarrassed, I used to tell her, close your eyes. breathe, be still, be in peace. I used to order her to be equanimous. Can you imagine? Well, soon enough and sure enough, my daughter absolutely stopped meditating. In fact, now she will not touch it with a beanpole. And this is what happens, you see, when we dictate to our children, because we feel that we have the power to do so. What we do is we rob them from their essence and we mess things up. We botch up the connection that they have to their own life experience. I'm sure you can remember countless examples in your own life where you've over-interfered or over-managed and robbed your children of their natural engagement with their own life. You know, in our desire and eagerness to have them turn out like our fantasies, we end up pushing them, we end up cajoling them, we end up threatening them, and we end up punishing and shaming them. The truth is this, and this may seem controversial, the more we push our children to be something other than who it is they are organically expressing, the more this will backfire in the long run. In the moment, our good child may listen to us and be compliant. But in the long run, when we don't allow them to unfold into their own relationship with themselves, eventually, mark my words, the disconnection to their true self will show up in some way. Anytime you disconnect any being from their true essence, it will show up somewhere else in a dysfunctional way. The reason for this is that each one of us has innately built within us a direct access to inner knowing and joy. I know you may not believe this. You're like, my children are too young to have this direct access to joy. How can they know what they know or what they don't know? I need to tell them. Well, let me tell you, every being, every sentient being has within them this instrument of inner knowing. It is because that knowing has been subjugated by the voices of culture and parental indoctrination that inner trust and that inner self-certitude doesn't come to the surface. Our children are truly autonomous, free-flowing. Yes, they're playful. Yes, they're messy sometimes. Yes, they're chaotic. But they are born with an irrepressible connection to their inner truth. Our children know what is according to their essence and what is not. And the more we veer them away from their inner truth, the more they will disconnect from themselves, and it'll show up as a disconnect in their life and relationships. Like we have been, we also culturally indoctrinate our children to fit into the norms of a very rigid and linear and hierarchical world. And we want our children to belong and feel comfortable in this world, so we push them into one slot or lane or category or the other. Little do we realize it's because we fully bought in to this world. We believe that this is just the way things are. So we may find ourselves saying things to our children, these pithy maxims such as, you know, life is tough, or it's a tough competitive world out there, or you can't be at the end of the curve. You know, all these things we say to our children automatically come from our own indoctrinations, and we don't even realize we've just kind of inculcated these messages. They may not even be true. So in order to change the paradigm, in order to change the way our children feel connected to themselves, we have to kind of opt out of the matrix. We have to opt out of the cultural paradigms that surround us. We need to declare that we are not going to live our lives in the fear of not fitting in, or in the fear of not conforming to these norms that really are quite toxic. Because we were raised by parents who fully bought into the cultural matrix and bought into the paradigm of fear, we were raised with a disconnect. And when we disconnect from our true self, what happens is we create this shield, you see, around us, this barrier to protect ourselves from pain. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. And we've created a pain body, our children will create a pain body, and this pain body will move through generations. It's really a way of protecting ourselves, but eventually it sabotages our true brilliance. You know, like when the chicken is being hatched in the egg, the shell is so important. The shell is needed to protect the chicken when it's vulnerable. So too, because we were vulnerable as children and we weren't protected by our parents, we created this very hard shell of the ego around us. But what happens is that as we grow older, just like with the chicken, if the shell stays in place, then at some point the chicken is going to die inside. That defense of protection, if we keep it going for too long, it actually stops protecting us and actually begins to harm us, because it's a barrier from our heart. It is a barrier from our true feelings. It is a barrier from our truest authenticity. So that egoic shell, that pain body, so to speak, eventually it needs to crack. And the beautiful thing about life is that it offers us experiences to crack that shell. And the parenting experience, the parenting journey is a beautiful way where that egoic shell begins to crack. Because the thing that cracks the egoic shell is a painful experience or a triggering experience. And we know that the parenting process is replete with painful experiences, replete with triggering experiences. So those triggers that we experience with our children, those are wonderful portals to allow us to crack that egoic shell. So two things can happen when we're triggered by our children. If we follow the old way of parenting, we can further firm up our pain body and our egoic defenses, become even more rigid, more hard. But if we use the parenting process as a teacher, if we see our children as awakeners, then guess what? We begin to use the painful experiences to crack that shell, to dissolve the ego. And in this way, we break down that barrier and actually deeply enter our heart. So this is why I always say that the parenting process is our greatest opportunity to dissolve that ego. Because with every moment of conflict with our children, if we are ready to see them as our teachers, we can ask ourselves, why am I getting triggered right now? What about my own ego needs to be crumbled right now? What about my own ego needs to be crushed right now? And in this way, by seeing our children as our gurus of awakening, our teachers, our awakeners, we begin to allow the triggers to take us to a deeper place in our heart. So when we allow the possibility that this parenting process is really not about raising our children at all, but truly allowing moment after moment to heal our own selves from within, to look at our triggers as an opportunity to release the ego, to let go of our defense systems, to honor our true self again, then we truly begin to see, wow, my child is really my teacher. This is an opportunity for me to evolve. So shifting perspective from being the parent of the child to learning from the child changes the entire game. And using the parenting process to heal the inner self is truly where the entire paradigm shifts its axis. So for today's task, I would like you to really contemplate the following affirmations. I see my child, you can write this down if you like. I see my child as a free-flowing, dynamic spirit. And as you write those words, contemplate what that could mean. They are a free-flowing, dynamic spirit. They have the freedom to change and morph and transform. Can you allow that? And then I'd like you to reflect on the next affirmation. My child is a unique and separate being, autonomous unto themselves. Contemplate, what does that mean for you? Can you release your control? Can you truly let go of your tentacles of power and dominance and allow them to be their unique selves? Not like your neighbor's kids, not like the kid you imagined having, not like the kid you wanted to have, but as the kid that they truly are. And thirdly, I would like you to reflect on the affirmation, my child is my teacher. For this to occur, for the child to be your teacher, it would require for you to step down off your hierarchical pedestal of control and power and omniscience and be willing to be humble. That I'm willing to learn from my child, even if the child is an infant or a toddler. Chronological age has nothing to do with it. Our children hold wisdom within them that is invaluable. Their access to their inner knowing, their access to the present moment, their access to their feeling states is unparalleled. They have something to teach us. We have something to learn. Do you dare to step into the humble place of student? So for the rest of today, remember, you're going to look at your children through the eyes of open, unabashed curiosity. Ask yourself, can I truly honor them for their free-flowing dynamic spirit? Can I see them for their unique essence? And can I honor them humbly as my teachers?